Hi, welcome. This is the third video in a four-part series of videos to do with arranging a melody. Okay, the first video we did was where we inputted the melody onto a track in Musescore. The second video we looked at creating a harmony track using thirds. If you haven't done those two steps, definitely go check out those videos. The links should be nearby. This third video is we're looking at a technique to make your track sound a little bit more interesting. So we're going to be embellishing it. So this is the embellishment track that we're going to do. So let's get into it. So here I've got a copy of the previous samples that I used in the other two videos. So we've got our melody track sample that we used. Hopefully you've finished those bars off. And I've got my harmony track notes, and again, hopefully you finish those off. You may notice also that by now you've got your parts going down onto the next line here because it's run out of space on this staff. Don't be too worried, that's a normal thing to happen. Next, we've got to be adding our new track for this next instrument, okay? Because what we're going to be doing is a few new techniques. So we're going to be adding a track, which is what we did in the last video. In this one, we're going to be copying and pasting notes again from one track to the next. So let's give this a go. So the first step was adding a new track. We went to Edit, clicked Instruments. You could also click the I key. And we're going to pick an instrument, okay? Now with these instruments, make sure you're picking an instrument that will be melodic in nature. So percussion instruments won't really work for this task yet. Later on we will be doing a drum track in the next video, so stay tuned for that one. This next track I'm going to use the alto saxophone. I'm going to click Add, and there we go. If for some reason you want to change the order, you can do that here as well. So I can have the flute below the saxophone, or I can bring that back down. I'm going to keep it piano for melody, harmony track for the flute, and now the embellishment track is going to be the saxophone. And click OK. So we've got this added. The next step, we're going to copy the notes from the piano part to the saxophone part. So let's click into the first bar of the piano part. Be careful not to click the notes or the stems. So click within the bar so you get the square around it. Then move your mouse to the last bar. Your last bar might be scrolling down a little bit by now. Hover over the last bar, and then before you clicked, hold down Shift and then click that bar. Okay, so I'll do that again. So click the first bar, move the mouse over to the last bar of the piano part, hold down Shift, then click into that bar, and then you can select it. The next thing is to use your shortcut commands. So Control C on a Windows machine or Command C on a Mac. Okay, and then we can go and select the first bar of our alto saxophone part, and then Control C or Command C to paste that in, and then just click out the way of that. So now I've got my notes in, but wait a minute, this is looking a little bit different to the piano part. So there's a few things that have gone on here. So here we've got the sharps that a saxophone plays in. So they play in a different key to our piano and flute. And you're noticing the notes are starting on a different note. Okay, so so that we can make sure that we're looking at the right sort of notes, we can actually adjust this. So at the moment we're looking at a score that's transposed to suit the players on their instrument. If we come up here and click concert pitch, that's going to change it back to a score where we can see all the parts in the same key. Okay, so now I've got my saxophone part with the same notes as the piano part, which makes it a little bit easier when arranging and dealing with harmony between those parts. So now we're going to change this part up a little bit. Okay, so for my example as an embellishment note, or should I now say a passing note is what we're going to be using now for our embellishment. I'm going to click the second note there, and now I'm going to change it. So I'm going to select the quaver or eighth note. So when I click this note, it's now going to change it to the quaver and put a rest in the gap. Okay, so what we're now going to do is leave that middle C as a quaver, but we're going to put another note in the gap where that rest is. So while we've got this quaver note selected, we're going to click Note Input, and now we're going to be able to come down here and over where the rest is, see I can go up and down over that spot, you're going to click in a note. So I'm going to click in this one right there. Let's have a little bit of a listen to that. So hopefully you could hear that extra passing note that goes between the C to the G. I'll play it one more time. Okay, so what your job is to do now is to go along and add in more passing notes. So selecting the note, turning it into a quaver, okay, selecting the note input, and then where that gap is, picking a note that sounds good to you. Okay, so I might put this note in. Let's see what that sounds like. Okay, so you were creating a little bit more interest. If you don't like the choice that you made, this undo button is your best friend. So let's click undo, and then you can take it back a few steps and then pick another note to make your adjustments. Okay, so a lot of this might be a little bit of trial and error and investigating what sort of passing notes you can do to embellish your arrangement. Okay, I recommend doing a minimum of 4, but I've seen people go absolutely crazy and put them all over the place. So have a bit of an explore. When you do create something that you like, don't forget to come up and hit the save button, maybe save it as a new file type if need be, then you can go back to your previous version if something goes wrong. Okay, so that pretty much does this for this particular video. So hopefully now you've learned a couple of more techniques to do with adding new tracks, copying and pasting different bars across to a new track, dealing with transposing notes to a concert key, and then actually changing notes from quavers or crotchets into quavers so that you can create a bit of a passing note. If you use one of the semiquavers, just be careful with those because 4 of those will take up the space of a crotchet. Okay, so have a bit of fun with that. Don't forget to comment below or nearby, and stay tuned for part 4 where we look at adding a drum track. Thanks.